We're here
Simone.
live from Dating Better. We are starting our first episode for our very own podcast. Yay!
Yay!
So we found it to be really important that we put together our Dating Better group. Many of you know us from the Facebook group Dating Better, and this is a new platform in which we're coming on because we want to continue the conversation even outside of the Facebook dating group. One of the reasons why we created Dating Better was because we both are single women, single Black women. I think that's probably the most poignant part of this. And we are friends, and we've had many of discussions about what we're seeing as far as dating is concerned. I know for me myself, I've been single for about 3 years now, and joining some of the groups that I've been in, just looking and reading the comments that I see between Black men and Black women, I see that we have a lot of work to do. And so, and myself and Simone have also came to that same conclusion. And you chime in when you're ready, Simone. But I think that most of the reason why we put this group together is because we're seeing that one of the main things is there's a lot of strife that's happening between Black men and Black women. And it seems to be coming from a place of, to me, and I think to a lot of people, be coming from a place of hurt, of frustration, of pain, of disappointment, and so many other things. But I think that one of the main things, and we keep coming back to this, is that there is some real healing that needs to happen between Black men and Black women. So that's what our topic of discussion is going to be today. We're going to talk about why is it important that we even talk about this topic? Why is healing important, and what is the point to even focusing on healing as far as dating is concerned? Why is it necessary that we heal past things before we even think that we can become a dater? Or why would we need to do this so that we can become a better dater? So what are your thoughts, Simone?
Well, for me, I think it always begins with self-love. I think that people need to just work on themselves. It's important that you're ready to date.
Right.
A lot of people, they say that they're ready, they think they're ready, but not quite sure how ready they are. So I think if we, just begin to, as we said, we're going to talk about healing, but just begin to heal from the demons that, plague our minds, our hearts, and our soul. Once we get rid of those and really start loving on one another and seeing a future together, then, things will start working out.
Right. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that one of the things that we said we wanted to do with Dating Better was that we wanted to address people individually. Because here's the thing, and here's been, my thought and our collective thought, is that in order for us to get to a better situation between us as Black men and Black women, we really have things that we need to work on for ourselves. There's been a lot of, like I said, a lot of pain and disappointment that's happened between Black men and Black women. I think that's why we're at the point where we're, just distrustful of one another. And a lot of this stuff are things and experiences that we've been through personally. And of course, whatever we've been through would color how we approach things. But I think it's important that we address healing, because a lot of this has to do with getting past hurts, past pains, past disappointments, getting past even things that we need to do for ourselves. Simone said self-love. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we're seeing, that a lot of this has to do with self-esteem and self-love. I'm a huge proponent of self-esteem and self-love, knowing oneself, being comfortable with oneself, and looking at a lot of the situations that's going on, whether it's, women changing their bodies up through plastic surgery, or whether it's, men taking supplements, or whatever it is. A lot of it boils down to self-love and self-esteem. Even some of the decisions that we make. And I can attest to this, because I remember, I was just discussing this earlier, like thinking like back in the days, like some of the decisions that I used to make were really, like, when I look at them as my adult self, I'm like, wow, that was a really dumb thing to do. There were times where I may have put
Right.
myself, into bad situations where I could have potentially been raped or harmed or even killed, depending on where you are or who you're with. If you're not really, using your brains like maybe you would as an adult. And so I think that some of the things are driven by your esteem, how you feel about yourself.
Definitely. And you don't want to be an adult repeating things that you did as a teenager. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it may happen, of
Mm-hmm.
course, but you want to be able to catch yourself at some point and say, wait, hold up. This is not
Mm-hmm.
working. I have to find another way of doing things, another way of
Right.
thinking of things. If you keep getting the same
Mm-hmm.
results, you can't continue doing the same thing. So it's important that, we acknowledge some of the decisions that we made throughout our lives. And even now, at whatever age you are, just aim to make better
Right.
decisions.
And I think, and like you said, it's really about us. Because to me, everything has a lesson in it, right? Even when things are horrible, even when you have a heartache or, you've had that horrible relationship, there's still a lesson in all of this. I think part of the thing is that most of us tend to repeat the things that we know because most of the time it becomes comfortable to us and it becomes a part of you. And it's something, if you're comfortable enough with it, even if it's hurtful or harmful, more than likely you're likely to repeat it. And that's the thing. It's like really one of the things that we have to learn how to do is to break out of cycles. And cycles are just nothing but repeated behaviors and repeated ways of thinking. And a lot of this goes onto how you think. And how you think influences how you behave. That's just a basic psychological, process. And I think a lot of it
Right.
is what we're telling ourselves or what we even hear that we start to tell ourselves. When you think about things like chanting, people are not chanting like, I'm not crap, I'm, horrible. No, they're chanting affirmations. They're chanting things that are positive. The same things you have to do for yourself as far as your thought process. We need to be thinking about and being more in tune with what things are we telling ourselves? What things are we saying to ourselves? Are we saying to ourselves that we're not worthy of love and then making decisions that show that we think that we're not worthy of love? These are the things that we have to be
and
thinking
and,
about.
and also who we're listening
Right.
to. It's not only what you tell
Mm-hmm.
yourself, but what you hear others say.
Right.
you
Mm-hmm.
know and having a whole misconception of a person or a topic,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever the situation is. We really have to learn how to be more
Right.
self-sufficient and logically thinking
Mm-hmm.
and making wiser
Right.
decisions.
Absolutely. Because, and I tell my kids this, I'm like, the world is going to tell you all kinds of stuff, right? The world is going to see you as a black person and they're going to say you're ugly. They're going to say you're not smart. They're going to say all these things. But it's up to us to fortify ourselves against the naysayers, or fortify ourselves against the people that are going to come in and interact with us and give us that negative standpoint, right? They're going to have the negative things to say. Like, you have to almost build up a wall of self-esteem against
Right.
all the things that are going to be said against you, and know who
Right.
you are and what you are. So when somebody does come along, when that boyfriend comes along, or that girlfriend comes along, or that employer or whoever, when they come along and they're saying these things to you, you're like, nah, that's not true. I know I'm beautiful. Nope, I'm not accepting this behavior because I know I'm intelligent. I know I'm worthy. I know I'm this. I know I'm that. And I think that's part of the work that needs to be done too. Um, as far as us as Black people are concerned, I think that we're not spending enough time fortifying ourselves with these things.
And I know for me as a Christian, I definitely believe in
Mm-hmm.
prayer. The Bible says men ought to always
Mm-hmm.
pray and not to faint.
Right.
And I definitely know for myself that prayer builds you
Mm-hmm.
to have self-esteem. It builds you to make wise decisions. It builds you to know, to
Mm-hmm.
discern, between people and things and
Mm-hmm.
places. And God just really has a path that He'll guide you down.
Right.
And through prayer, you will walk down that path and get to where you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, it's in my opinion, I think as Black people, we definitely need to pray more,
Mm-hmm.
because we have so many forces that come against us, and it's not just natural.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible itself tells us that it's not just a natural warfare, but it's a spiritual
Right.
warfare. And in a lot of ways that you look at it, you just like, this just cannot be naturally happening. It just don't even make sense. Some things are so outlandish and so insane that it's just like, it has to be like some kind of spiritualism behind it. And so I do want to put emphasis that people need to pray to build themselves up and to build their children up, and the peers, their people, their family, everyone around them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, it also, to me, it also has to do with, because, different people think of prayer in different types of way, whether it's, meditation, or whether it's just basically everybody having one energy towards a certain goal. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's what it's really about, the energy that you're putting into, and really everybody putting that energy together towards what it is that we want. I think that's really important. I think that we don't do that spiritual piece enough together. Like, I know some of us have it, in little pockets, and some of us even individually. But, combined energy and combined prayer, combined meditation, combined thoughtfulness on certain things can affect a lot of change. So, yeah, I think that's a great point. So let's get back to the healing piece.
But also, I mean, to me, meditation is kind of more a form of relaxation.
Well, it depends.
Am I correct?
No, it just depends, because some people meditate for relaxation. Some people meditate with intentions to do certain things. Some people don't like to say it's prayer. They like to just say they're meditating. But if you're thinking about what you want to happen for your year, or the things that you want to see happen in your life, and you're spending your mental energy, because it's really about you concentrating your mental energy on something, whether it's a thought, whether it's an action, whatever it is. Some people do use meditation solely for relaxation. But that's not the only thing that a meditation is for.
No, I know, but yeah, definitely. But what I was thinking is, because when you think of prayer, the goal of prayer is the ear of God, is to be in tune with God. I mean, yes, some people say they do meditate, and I guess, they get, to me, of course, I could be wrong, but to me, it just is a form of relaxation. I don't know how much you're going to meditate and actually get into God's ears, but I know through prayer, you can definitely enter God's ears. So, but I mean, of course, whatever works for people. But as a believer, I definitely, for those that is looking for a solution, or those that have a prayer life, I just definitely want to put emphasis on how important prayer is. But, of course, whatever works for people, whatever's positive, whatever's good, whatever's lovely, do it.
But I think, and I think prayer is definitely important. I also think that, we have to remember that everything that we want to have takes some work. So I think the other thing is that a lot of us have this work that we need to do, and that work involves healing past hurts. I think that it's important that, this is why I love Iyanla Vanzant, because she likes to say, you have to do your work. And it's so true. It's like, I believe in prayer, but I also believe in prayer, and I believe in action. Like, there's certain things that you just gonna have to do, and then you put prayer to drive behind it to even get to even more. I think for a lot of people, the action part is the part that's missing. The part where you have to actually revisit. And yeah, it's gonna be painful. Nobody's saying that it's not gonna be painful. But sometimes you have to revisit the painful memories, the painful things, the hurts, the disappointments, all that stuff, to heal it. You can't just, bury it. You can't just, because the bottom line is, a lot of it for us is like dirt. And a lot of people want to sweep dirt under the rug, right? But just because you swept it under the rug doesn't make it disappear. Just because you don't talk about being, molested, or you don't talk about being in an abusive relationship, or you don't talk about maybe not having your mom and your dad and how that's, shaped you. Just because you don't talk about it doesn't make it disappear. I think in our community, especially, and I can say this as somebody that works in mental health, and being a therapist, that, like, a lot of us have these unresolved hurts, this unresolved things that we need to really work on healing. And it's going to take work. Like, it's not a 1, 2, 3 kind of thing. Some
Right.
people are able to kind of process and get through a little bit faster or better, and makes for a better you. But it's work, and it's mental work that has to happen. I think part of it, the other part is, we have to really start thinking about this stuff, healing this, and the mental health work that we need to do, as being no different than if you had broken your leg, right? And because this is analogy, and I know I like analogies. I'm always talking about and analogies and stuff. But like, thinking about a person who's home, you slip and fall and you break your leg. What do you do?
Right.
Right? You need to get out that house, and you need to go get some help, right? You need to go to the hospital, you need to go to a professional, you might need to get a cast, you're gonna need to get x-rays, whatever. You do what you need to do in that process. Mental health is no different. If something's broken there, if something needs to be healed, if something is disrupted, you need to go see somebody and get that taken care of. You need to do the work of healing. And a lot of times and sometimes it takes the work of a professional to help you to do that. It's like, you don't have the
Right.
stuff in your home to build yourself a cast, so you're going to go to where you need to go to get the cast built so you can heal your leg. The same thing works for mental health. And I think we have to
I
start,
agree.
right,
I
we have to
agree.
start disbanding just even the thought that if there's an issue, because I'll be honest, people talk about, as soon as you say mental health, a lot of people kind of cringe, especially in our community. It's like a taboo, but it's like, that is a regular and normal part of your daily everything. If you don't have mental health, you have nothing else, whether you acknowledge it or not.
And we have to normalize it,
Right.
because it's not like a little issue. It's big issues.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about going back to slavery. We're going back thousands of years, where our great grandparents in some form suffered mentally. And even if you go forward, our descendants too will suffer mentally too.
Right.
So it's generational, and it's a subject that we definitely have to put emphasis on, this time that we're going through, because it's became worse, with the pandemic and everything. I think it's worse because people are locked in their homes. They have the time to think about suicide, or their pain, their hurt, but not combating it positively, and that's what we want to teach people, because it's imperative that people get healing. Because if you look at, like we talked about earlier, with this generation, the younger generation, they're suffering. They're suffering in a lot of ways. And so, trying to get the therapy that's needed, it's not like you can look at one person in the family and be like, ha ha ha, you're getting therapy. No, you line up about 15 people in the family and they all need therapy. So I think people need to stop thinking it's like something is wrong with me if I get help, or people's gonna look at me. No, ask your cousins or your uncle or your mother, ask somebody to join with you to get therapy and to get healing for the family, individually and collectively. But I think we definitely just have to normalize it whichever way we can. Because I mean, I'm proud to say, I get counseling from my bishop, but I've been getting counseling from him for years. Literally just pouring my little heart out and just, getting advice and prayer and to on just which way I should go in my life. And of course, it's been a relief, and it's been empowering to me, and it helped me in a lot of ways. And I recommend it.
And that's the thing, like, I say, you seek out counsel where you can, like you said. For some people it may be a bishop, for some people it may be an elder, for some people it may be, a colleague. You go to where you feel comfortable first. But then you need to go to where people are actually qualified to help you in the aspect that you're looking for help in. Some of the things are outside of the realm of certain people. You might be able to go to your mom or your dad and say, listen, I'm really struggling with this, and they might be able to help you to some degree, or maybe get you to a certain point. Then maybe you might need to seek counsel in a professional. Maybe you might need to seek counsel in a life coach, or, somebody else along that vein that's going to help you get to the further step of healing and self-resolution, really. And I think it's important, and and you brought up, and I was just thinking as you were talking about, even if we don't do it for ourselves, to think about doing it for the younger generation. If you think about, how many of us, if we've seen like our parents struggle with certain things, how much prevalent mental health is in the community, where people had parents who were alcoholics, or were battling bipolar depression, bipolar disorder, or had depression, and you didn't even know what it was, but you just knew something wasn't quite right, right? And
Mm-hmm.
having a battle with that, and now it's trickled down to how the children behave, how they interact with other people, how they handle stress and stuff like that. So even if you don't even think about it for yourself, if you think about how it affects your children or the people that are
Right.
around you, that's important too. But of course, we want you to do it for yourself individually, because this is really about, it's the aspect of self-care.
Right.
Yeah, and I think the thing, if we go back to the dating better, and just being an individual and dating period, like the whole premise is that we really, and here's the thing, and I'm like, I want people to understand this. Everybody has something. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Now, if anybody say that they just been untouched by life and they don't have anything, well, God bless them, because I have not met or seen not one single person that didn't have something. Whether it's a prejudice against something, whether it's a judgment about something, whether you've been afflicted by something or affected by something, or or hurt by something, or disappointed. We all have something. Some people have
Right.
you know more baggage than others. Some of us have like a whole suitcase set. Some of us might have a light carry on, or just a little coin purse worth of stuff. But everybody has stuff, and it's really important that we work on healing our stuff, because one of the analogies that I like to use is that when it comes to being in love with somebody, it's kind of like pulling up to a table, right? Like a banquet of love. And when you pull up, you want to pull up as whole as possible. Because a lot of times what happens is, and especially when you have two people who are not whole, more than likely you're draining each other. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You're not good for each other. One person might be trying to get the other person over their hump or over their stuff. Meanwhile, they're being drained. It's not a good combination. So as much as
Right.
possible, when we want to come together with somebody else, we should try our best to heal our stuff, become as whole as possible. And a lot of it is, you are, and we all are, works in progress, right? For a lot of us, it's stuff that might be lifelong that you might have to
Mm-hmm.
work on, right? So you might
Definitely.
not even get to, and I don't even want to say 100%, but you might not get to whatever is the highest level for whatever it is that you're looking for. But in order for us to be better together, we have to pull up with more. We have to pull up with better, and we have to do better for ourselves. And honestly, if you know that healing is one of those things, it's just something that you just have to do. But it's a matter of changing your mindset about it, so then that way you can kind of tackle it in a way that's going to be helpful for you. If you keep thinking about it as, something wrong with me, and just changing that mindset about it, I think that's one of the hugest things, is just really getting rid of that stigma, that this is healthy work to do. It's healthy
Right.
to revisit and figure out where this stuff is coming from. It's healthy and it's fruitful for you to revisit why maybe you've been in 20 bad relationships. Like,
Right.
there's a reason for it. What are you bringing to the table? And it's not a blame game, but it's a reality game. Like, you have to ask yourself, why do you keep making these same decisions, or why do you keep having these same type of relationships, or why do relationships never progress into a certain extent? It's not always about the other person. So we have to do some self work and some self introspection, and figure out what is it that we're bringing to the table too, that's causing some of these things to happen the way that they're happening.
Right. Definitely. And even if you have to go back to your youngest memory
Mhm.
of feeling hurt, I think
Mhm.
that's a good place to start.
Right.
I know for me, when I do think back on a lot of things, the first trauma was actually leaving Jamaica
Mhm.
and coming here to United States.
Mhm.
Of course I was young, so I didn't know the impact that it had on me. But now when I look over and I hear stories and I think about life, I see how traumatic that was, and how it kind of, put fear in me. It kind of, builds up a barrier of fear. So yeah, we just have to go back to the youngest of ages and just figure out if a mother left, if a father left, if you lost your teddy bear, somebody burned it, your dog died. I mean, it's funny, but those are things that's triggers for people.
Right.
And it starts that form of neglect. Like if my father said he was coming to pick me up and he didn't come, we have the tendency to blame ourselves instead of blaming the person that did it. And we kind of carry that on throughout life, that either we're always blaming ourselves or we're always blaming others. And whichever one the circle fall on, is like we need help. Whichever way it goes, we need help, vice versa. We definitely need help, and we just really have to just find out, what's plaguing us.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really is imperative that we do this. Like I said, it's work. I'm not gonna, put it out there and say that, like, this is an easy task to do, because for a lot of us, it takes a long time. I mean, I remember even for myself personally, like, once I got out of the last relationship that I was in, I spent a lot of time, like, sitting up at night thinking about the decisions that I made, like how I even got to the point where I was at, and then started to just think about other relationships and kind of where the overlap was in behaviors and things of that. Like, why would I accept certain things, or why would I act a certain way? Why would I do certain things? And, I think I could trace it. I could pinpoint back to a lot of different instances. I mean, I remember, being the little, chubby, nerdy girl in school and being bullied in school and made fun of. And I think that's part of when I kind of lost my voice as a person. And so when I get, start getting this attention from guys, even if they were older, it was intriguing to me, because I'm like, wow, like, somebody actually likes me. Meanwhile, I have remembrances of people who seem like they just hated me. You know what I mean? And even though I had my family who, clearly loved me and, said nice things to me, but it wasn't the same thing. It wasn't feeding the type of need that I had.
Right.
And so I started to, start taking heed to that kind of stuff, and then became more intrigued with getting attention from the male persuasion, and not only that, but then at some point, like I said, losing my voice. And then I started to realize, like, that whole losing my voice business really played into why I accepted a lot of things that I accepted.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's the problem that a lot of women are going through. They lost their voice.